go. We should be recording now.
Okay. Well, warm welcome everyone to our Council of Governors meeting this October the 2nd. Can't believe it's October already. The year seems to be flying by, as we all recognise. I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm conscious that I missed the last meeting, but looking at, I know Julia chaired it, and it looks like it was a really good meeting and had really good discussions. So I'm pleased to be here today, back in the chair. Yeah, welcome to everybody for our meeting today. We do have a few apologies, but we've noted that we're quorate. We are obviously welcoming if anybody, members of the public, are able to watch this meeting, and it's usually available on playback, if I can call it that, for anybody who hasn't been able to attend the meeting live. We do have a few apologies from formal apologies from Adam Webb, Richard Amponza and Mark Major, who are some of our governors. I think also we have since received apologies from Sheila Begley, have we not? Because Tracy, am I right in thinking we can confirm that Sheila has felt the need to step down because she's got some sort of developing issues about her capacity? So Sheila has stepped down. We have got somebody lined up to replace her, but I'll let Tracy come back to that later, Tracy, as part of the COG report perhaps, but I just wanted to note that Sheila has stepped down, and particularly relevant because Sheila was I think had chaired the standards group meeting, hadn't she, Richard, and therefore it will be Richard presenting the report there, but hopefully with contribution from other members of the standards group. Another unfortunate apology we've had is from Robin Cutforth. So Robin was due to present, so we've had a bit of misfortune on this Council of Governors meeting, because Robin was due to present item 5, which was our governor story in her capacity as public governor for Wellingborough and East Northants. So she has given her apologies. So unfortunately, we didn't feel it was relatively short notice because of a personal issue, and we didn't feel we could just ask other governors to step in at short notice. So we will just take that item out of the agenda. But we do have some very useful, as we always do, but we've got a particularly interesting item on the agenda in assurance terms, and something you requested, I believe, at the last meeting. So actually it's highly topical, and Julia and Duncan will be talking us through that later, which is giving you assurance and an understanding of sort of some of the challenges around access to services within our services and what we're doing about those currently. So although we are unable to bring you one of the items, I'm sure that we can take the time to explore those other items in a bit more detail. So I'm not unduly concerned. We've got a lot of other things we need to cover on the agenda, not least actually on the private agenda as well, which is very full today, because we also have on our later private agenda an item around the external auditor appointment. We also have apologies from Tim Harrison and Joanne Lancaster as non-executive directors, and from Anne Rackham as Chief Operating Officer. But I'd also like to welcome, I think, yes, I can see her on screen, so formally welcome Natasha Fox. Natasha is one of our new non-executive directors, an associate non-executive director. She started on the 1st of September, and so can't believe it's already a month in, Natasha. Where has that time gone? And of course, many colleagues in this Council of Governors will have been involved in Natasha's appointment, but either through non-rem or through the stakeholder panel of governors. So we thank you very much for your contribution to that, and welcome Natasha to this meeting, and look forward to her contribution today. Although don't feel under any pressure to contribute, Natasha. I know it's always difficult on your first first meeting, but she's already hit the ground running in some of our board discussions. So I'm sure everyone will look forward to working with her. Okay, so going forward to item 2 then, declarations of interest. We note paper A, which is really just the council members' declarations that we've received, just a reminder really to colleagues to keep that up to date. But otherwise, it's just there for public transparency and for noting today. So item 3, minutes of the previous meeting, paper B. I just would like to check that colleagues are happy that the minutes are accurate. I think there's a comment from Michael just on a typo that needs sorting out, which we have noted in the chat. So we can make sure that's corrected, Michael. Apologies that we've used the French spelling of your name. So we'll address that. Otherwise, is everyone content that the minutes are accurately presented to you today? Okay, so notwithstanding that correction, which we will make, we will take the minutes as approved. So moving on to the action log, which is paper C, we did just have the one item outstanding, as I mentioned, and that is in fact closed because we've got that item on the agenda today. So if everyone's content, we can close that off, and obviously we can discuss that item when we come to it shortly. Okay, so as I mentioned, item number 5, unfortunately, we have had to stand down, and hopefully Robin will be able to represent that at a future meeting. And of course, if any public governors in particular, or partner governors actually, would like the opportunity to present in the future, do let us know. We always welcome hearing a governor perspective at the council, and hearing about your networks and your opportunities for contributing really as a governor. So do let us know. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Richard for the Council of Governors report, which is paper D, item 6. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks very much, Krishni. Good afternoon, everybody. And I think I'll build on that last comment about activities that governors have been engaged in. We always like to profile those in the Council of Governors report. And indeed, you can see at the, I think it's the second page of the report, that we've got sort of 3 mini case studies really of work that governors have been engaged in over the previous couple of months. I may turn to Heather in a moment if she wants to comment on her involvement in the community engagement meeting. But before I do so, just to highlight Mabel's involvement in the Outstanding Gold Food Life Serve award. This is something that we're very proud of as an organisation. It's part of our sustainability agenda and goes hand in glove really with some other work that we've been doing in terms of sustainability more broadly, and we can see that Mabel has been involved in the awards celebration as a result of our national recognition there earlier this month. Adam, who I don't think is in the room, no, has reported back on a service visit that he undertook to our services run out of Stewart Road Clinic, which is a facility in Corby. I think Adam joined Dion, who is in the room, and Tim, whom Krishni mentioned, is not with us today. So really just a reminder to governors, if you are wishing to go out and visit services along with a non-exec director and a director, do let us know, as we have got a programme of opportunities that we are seeking to publicise. So do take the opportunity where you can to go out and engage with some of our services and our service users. And then, not to steal her thunder, perhaps I'll invite Heather to comment on the multi-faith community meeting that she attended in September, if she wishes to do so.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me today. Last month actually I attended the meeting for multi-faith in Northampton, and it was actually a great meeting. It has lots of multi-faith and multicultural as well in the community, including the church, in the Christianity, Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim, and Hindus as well. So I try to advertise for our trust and how good job actually we do in the community, and if we can accept them to become a member in our boards, and if as well can apply to become a governor. So I give them some of the information about the trust and what they can attend to become a member over there. I presented lots of stuff what we do regarding Northamptonshire, regarding mental health, and which area we cover. And I ask as well, like if they can do volunteering, anything from the side. Really, we actually will support our community and our trust. And I accept lots of welcoming, I can say welcoming, and I'm really happy actually to join our public meetings and become a member as well in our trust. And we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Heba, for that, and also for your efforts to recruit new members. Again, a reminder to governors, we have got some resources and support available to you if you are out in the community. I reference our member strategy, where we're targeting particular groups of our populations that are underrepresented on our membership. And indeed, as Heba was alluding to, this was one of the areas that we were planning as part of the membership engagement and representation committee to drive better engagement and hopefully additional members in. I'll bring Tracy in at this point.
I was just going to add to what Heba said, because pre to this meeting, we'd actually met with Odette Douglas, who's the spiritual wellbeing lead in the trust. So she's keen to build links with the council of governors and get involved with the membership where possible. And also Anu was at that meeting, and Monica, I think you were at that meeting as well. So there's a sort of small group of governors now who are sort of working on this area. So we're hoping to keep it going. And I know we're trying to get an invite to the Wellingborough Interfaith Forum, I believe, is the next stage. So keep an eye out on that one, because if any other governor wants to get involved, please do let us know, because we've sort of created a bit of a mini group going here. So if anyone else wants to get involved, do let me know.
Thanks very much, Tracy, and indeed thanks to Anu and Monica for their efforts as well. So next in the report then is a bit of a profile. It's possibly why Richard is not here. I'm sparing his blushes really, but Richard, who is of course our lead governor and a valued member of staff, is profiled in the member magazine at this time, where we're reaching out to not just our members but other stakeholders as well, talking about some of the work that the Council of Governors do, in this case through the lens of Richard's case study here. I'd certainly encourage you to have a look at that, and also to watch Richard's video, which I think really comes across tremendously well. Again, if you wish to play a starring role in a future video, or wish to submit your case studies, then do again get in touch with Tracy, as we are always looking for stories and things that really bring the work of the Council of Governors to life for members of the public and patients. Moving through then, so this is actually a little bit out of date now, in the sense that we've just had another workshop before this meeting today. So the next part of the report reflects on some of the development workshops that we've been having to support governors in their roles. This particular one in August focused on the well-led key question that the CQC, the Care Quality Commission, ask when they come in and inspect organisations. We know that they like to talk to governors as well as many other people within the organisation when they come and do an inspection. So we were talking through at this particular workshop, and again earlier today, what that might look and feel like. And I think it provided a really good opportunity for governors to exchange their thoughts on things that they were proud of, areas perhaps that they felt we were doing some further work on, and just generally the opportunity to have a practice run really ahead of the CQC coming to visit us. So as we mentioned earlier in the workshop, this is going to be an ongoing conversation that we're having. So I would encourage governors that haven't yet had the opportunity to either attend a workshop or engage with this particular topic, do reach out. We've got recordings and resources available to you, and if there's anything that you'd like to talk through with us, then we'd be very happy to do so. So moving through, I suspect like many, I was pleased to participate again in the annual meeting, which is both the annual public and members meeting and the annual general meeting of the Council of Governors. This year took place on the 15th of September. Via Microsoft Teams. We run these events on Microsoft Teams because we found actually it enables more people to participate and get involved than when we used to invite people to attend in person, which involved travelling, parking and other such things. We had a good level of engagement again this year, which was really pleasing, and I think a really good range of contributions, both from some of our standing items, so the Chief Exec's report and the input from our auditors, but also actually we heard from some of our services as well, which without wishing to be competitive, I think are perhaps some of the better reviewed aspects of our meeting, in the sense that they bring the work of the Trust to life and the difference that we're making to patients, perhaps more so than some of the other set piece reports. But nonetheless, all of the aspects of the meeting are incredibly valuable in holding us to account for what we do. In addition to contributions from outside of the council, we had the Governor video, so thanks very much to those that played a starring role in the video. We really appreciate your willingness, I guess, to step forward and be part of the video. We know that many more governors than were featured in the video have contributed to our success as a trust and as the council over the last year, so thank you very much indeed. I referenced the case studies that we saw at the meeting, which are both listed on the slide here and available to watch back on the recording. So if you or anybody that didn't manage to turn up on the day would like to watch again, then do follow the link in the report, and it should take you through to the recording. We thought it was a good opportunity just to remind everybody that we are just 6 months in, I think now, to our new strategy for NHFT. So we retired the what was known as the DigbyQ strategy earlier this year, and together with our partners at LPT, Leicestershire Partnership, NHS Trust, with whom we work as part of a group model, we launched our new strategy, Thrive, which is summarised here on the slide. We are making pretty good progress actually with Thrive, considering we launched only in April. We've included some of the highlights of our work so far, at least as at September, on the slide here, so we can see a range of different things from the work that we've done supporting staff and colleagues within the organisation, to actually some of the work that we've done more broadly out in the community. So in addition to having a look at the specific points on this slide, I'd encourage you to have a look at the board paper actually that went through to the Trust Board meeting last week, which provides a great deal more detail on some of the work that's ongoing. Much like the conversation about Well Led, this will be a recurring theme at future meetings. So on the theme of things that we're doing in partnership with our colleagues at LPT, you may have noticed that we have been now running our group board meeting for this year. We had our most recent meeting just last week. I'm not sure how many of our governors were able to observe that live on the day, but again, there will be a recording available for you to watch back. It's a good opportunity to get to grips with some of the work we're doing across now 2 counties in partnership, and I'd certainly commend the recording and the papers to you if you haven't yet had a chance to observe. You'll note there that the next meeting of the Group Trust Board is happening in January. So if you'd like to observe that meeting, then drop us a line using the Foundation Trust email, and we can make sure that you get a link and the papers a little bit closer to the meeting in January. And then finally, really, in the report, I just wanted to highlight some changes that have been happening more broadly in the NHS. So you may have been aware in the national news that there have been some changes announced by the government to both NHS England, which is the national body for the NHS in England, but also some of our local commissioners who work in integrated care boards or ICBs. What we've seen more locally in Northamptonshire is our own ICB, Northamptonshire ICB, join forces with the equivalent body in Leicestershire, Leicester and Rutland, LLR, to form a new cluster arrangement, which I believe is now being referred to as LNR, reflective of Leicestershire, Northamptonshire and Rutland as the footprint that they're serving. As commissioners, of course, they receive a portion of the overall NHS budget and then make local decisions on how to invest that budget in the services that are provided to local people. So we clearly, as a recipient of that funding, delivering services on behalf of the commissioners, will clearly want to maintain a close working relationship with colleagues in the new cluster arrangement. You'll see that we've included a link there if you want to follow the work of the ICB by either observing one of their meetings or indeed reading some of the papers. I'd certainly say it's a good opportunity to get to grips with some of the things that are happening in the wider health and care economy. And I'd also point out, with that in mind, that we do hold regular sessions between ourselves and governors at Kettering General Hospital, which helps us also to have a broader conversation about our work as providers actually across the local system. So do look out for the next one of those workshops. So I won't go through the rest of the report, which is largely highlighting some upcoming events. I would encourage you to have a look at the upcoming member webinars, and if you can, to come and join us for these. These are always a really good opportunity to hear from different parts of the organisation and to engage more directly with those we serve in terms of our members and members of the public. It's great to have governors and indeed NEDs at these events. So do drop us a line if you'd like to get involved, or if you can't get involved, then do please share the information with people in your networks. And you can see there on the final slide details of upcoming meetings. So I think with that, Christian, I'll perhaps hand back to you for any comments or questions on the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Just welcome any comments or questions. If people would like to raise any, I'll pause for that. Tracy?
I was just coming back to the earlier point about the change in staff governors. So Sheila Staffy has had to stand down due to personal circumstances, but we have, I'm pleased to announce that as per our constitution, we've offered it to the next person in line from the previous staff elections. And actually it's someone who quite ironically was involved in the annual public meeting, which was Lisa Pearson. So Lisa Pearson is our suicide prevention lead, I believe, is her day job, and she'll be joining the Council of Governors, and she accepted yesterday. So she will be joining us. Although I didn't say she should come to this meeting, so I thought it was a little bit short notice, but she has accepted. So you'll be seeing her hopefully at future meetings soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Tracy, for confirming that. Brian, please.
Thank you, Christy. Just I popped this in the chat, but just for, I'm not sure whether governors are aware, but in addition to the changes that Richard mentioned, the government's also announced the abolition of Health Watch, which we've discussed at the Health and Wellbeing Board at Northampton. But I just think it's I think it's a real shame, but there's not very much more details, but I just wanted the rest of the governors to be aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brian. Yeah, it is obviously quite a significant development, isn't it? I mean, I'm trying to think how long Health Watchers have been running, but as you say, I don't think we've received much more detail on what the proposal is, other than the expectation, I believe, was that integrated care boards play more of a role in the abolition, if that is seen through, that integrated care boards will have to take responsibility for ensuring that the voice of the patient and the public is heard through the processes it uses. So in the meantime, interestingly, so I do absolutely recognise the concerns that people might feel around that. I think it's really important to make sure that we as an organisation and all our organisations, all our public bodies continue to work hard to make sure that our processes for hearing the voice of patients and the public are, you know, as effective as they can be and need to be. And certainly the council, I think in the past, Julia, has heard on sort of the patient opinion survey that we run, haven't they? So that's perhaps something, you know, the sort of thing we'll need to come back to assure people in the future that we have a means of hearing about these things. But it is an important point, Brian, and we need to watch this space, I guess, in terms of what happens next. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I think we're just asked to note that report. There are no decisions, I think, Richard, that you wanted us to pick up as part of that. So it's really an update on the various things that governors have been involved in, and always great to see. I did just, however, want to emphasize the 2 webinars, because actually it's worth just highlighting. The one next week on the 8th of October is all about working carers. And please do, even if you can't attend yourself, encourage people that who members of the public might be interested in coming along, because actually it is one of our partner governors, Mark Major, who's not with us today, but who is a part of that event, because obviously Mark plays an important role as Chief Executive of Northamptonshire Carers. Is part of the Integrated Care Board. I think it's still at the moment, or certainly has been, and you know, is an important voice on behalf of carers in Northamptonshire. So I've certainly encouraged people to come along to that, and indeed the Support for Veterans event, which I think is a really important area of focus for us as an organisation. So thank you very much, Richard, and colleagues who contributed to that. I go back to Richard now for item 7, which is the recommendations from the Standards Group, which is paper E. As I mentioned earlier, it would have been Sheila co-presenting this with Richard, but she has felt the need to step down. So I'll bring Richard in, but Richard, there might be other members of the Standards Group present who can indeed support you with this item. So over to you, please.
Thank you, Krishni. And yeah, I guess to start really with just a reminder of what the Standards Group is. So this is a formal group constituted by the Council of Governors that has governors as its members, and me, Melanie, and colleagues from the people team provide some advice and support. But it's fundamentally, although I'm presenting the item this afternoon, very much a governor-led group, and its responsibilities are around governor welfare and governor standards, as the name suggests. So as you can see in the report, the last meeting of the group focused on some analysis that we'd been doing in terms of attendance at Council of Governor meetings, and some conversations that we'd had with those that have had some attendance challenges over the last few months. And you can see that actually what we're seeking to do with this report really is just to re-clarify expectations regarding attendance, because it became apparent that there was a level of confusion about the requirements as far as the Code of Conduct and Constitution are concerned. I think the Standards Group had a really thorough discussion of this actually, and have come up with some specific recommendations to support governors in fulfilling their role, which we'll come on to in a moment. And we are, in addition to briefing the Council on the outcomes of the conversation, seeking your support for those recommendations. So turning to the next slide in the pack, we set out here some of the background. I'm not going to talk through all of the detail, but I will say that clearly as governors, there is an expectation that all governors attend and participate in the formal Council of Governor meetings. Of course, this is one of those formal meetings, which includes both the public session and where we have one, a private session as well. Although we do run a series of other meetings, including committees such as the Standards Group or the Nominations and Remuneration Committee, the core requirement for governors actually remains attending just the formal Council of Governors meetings. And in dialogue that the Standards Group has led with the Council with reference to what other organisations do, we'd set the standard that actually if governors were to miss 3 meetings, that would then trigger a referral to the Standards Group, really so the Standards Group could consider what support they could offer to enable the governor to participate in meetings, bearing in mind there are just 6 meetings per year. in addition to those provisions that are set out, as I've referenced in the Constitution and the Code of Conduct, and we also have our annual calendar, which we publicise on an annual basis, or as and when things change, so that we can enable people to plan ahead for their commitments. So that being the background, the situation that we've been looking at with the standards group was some attendance issues. So we found that we were having some variability in governors attending, where governors were perhaps attending for a portion of the meeting and then not staying for the whole meeting, or joining late. And there were various reasons for these. I'm not necessarily wanting to pass judgment on reasons for people not attending. The point really is that where we have attendance that dips below then our quoracy, it does then mean that the Council of Governors is not then able to transact business, which is where it becomes more of a problem. So the Standards Group considered this particular issue at its last meeting on the 11th of September, and explored some different options as to what action could be taken. So you can see then on slide 5 some of the outcomes of that discussion before we get to the recommendations. I think overwhelmingly there was a sense that actually we need to remember with all of this that governors are volunteers, many of whom have very busy other lives when they're not being governors. So although we need to respect the commitments in our constitution, it's important to balance that with what's reasonable and practical for people that are, after all, volunteering their time. Sometimes, particularly because of technology gremlins, and people may intend to attend but then be thwarted through a technological issue, be it a restart to their computer or some sound issues, which again we need to be sympathetic to. And I think the overriding sense of the discussion was really we need to apply, we being the standards group, of course, a common sense approach actually here. Let's make sure that the decisions that are being made are reasonable in that regard. So some of the things that the standards group then started to come up with, well, actually, should we on that basis have a grace period to allow for somebody that might be navigating between other meetings during that day, or maybe needing to leave just a touch early for childcare or caring commitments, for instance? How could we then have a more accurate understanding of when people are coming and going? Could we use something like the chat function to identify when people are in the meeting or not? Because it's often quite difficult just to understand when somebody joins, for example. And we had a bit of a discussion about some of the short notice meetings that we have put in the diary during the year, so the extraordinary meetings where we've had a need to make a decision in between council meetings. I think the sense was that people shouldn't be unduly penalised if they aren't able to attend a meeting with only a week's notice. But on the other hand, actually, if they are able to attend those meetings, that probably ought to be counted in their favour, as it were, in terms of contributing to a formal meeting. So hopefully you would agree that would be a sort of an application of a common sense approach there. So I won't go through all of the bullet points there, but hopefully you can get a feel for the tenor of the discussion within the standards group. So moving through then to the recommendations, these are the areas that we're looking to promote a bit of a discussion and hopefully a decision on at this afternoon's meeting. So I've already mentioned the grace period. We were proposing, and I keep saying we, of course I mean the standards group, to apply a 15-minute grace period that would allow for somebody that, as I mentioned, had other commitments that was a little bit tardy in arriving without being penalised. In terms of the support offer, the group were minded to have a trigger at 2 meetings missed either in full or in part for a supportive phone conversation or an email exchange with us in the corporate governance team, just to understand if there's anything that we could be doing to support the governor to attend the 3rd meeting that would otherwise then trigger a referral to the standards group. As I think we've discussed here before, we're just trying to reinforce it's really helpful to have apologies from governors, not just when they can't attend a meeting at all, but if they are then going to be unable to stay for the whole meeting. As I mentioned earlier on, this is very often for perfectly understandable and reasonable reasons, but it's just helpful to know for the standards group then when it's considering any action that it may need to take. We wanted to then essentially reset expectations from this meeting going forward. So essentially to have a blank slate from this point forward. So to not take action on anybody that hasn't managed to achieve that standard, up to now. As you would probably expect from a transparency point of view, much like we do with attendance at board meetings, we would expect then to list a record of attendance at meetings in the annual report and accounts, and that would then, as we're proposing here, include an indication where somebody attended a part meeting or a full meeting. And as I mentioned on the with reference to the previous slide, that we'd then look to count the annual general meeting and any formal extraordinary meetings in a governor's favour were they to attend those. So hopefully I've done justice to the discussion. As Krishni mentioned, I think we have some governors on the standards group in the room, so please do jump in and add to my setting out of the conversation. Hopefully I've got things right, but certainly if I haven't, do intervene. If there aren't any additional contributions, I'll perhaps hand back to Krishni then to help the council consider these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. I can see Anu would like to come in. Anu, please.
Yes, it's just to query because we in our team where we work is so short-staffed. So once I think I came and I had to just go out of the meeting because my manager said the work comes first than the governance meeting. So I had to go. Normally, I try my best to be there. But in a situation like that, I had to kind of leave because obviously there are lots of staff who really need our assistance. So I need to go. So I had to go. So sorry about that if I haven't, because it was so sudden. I had to just leave and go. So I apologize for that. That happened a couple of weeks ago, I think. And then I put a question, and I think Tracy has answered. Because for me personally, in 2 weeks' time, I have a major operation to do, so I'll be out for 3 months. So, well, I can attend the meetings because I can, come on to the meetings via, being at home. But the question is, I asked it from Tracy as well, because it's considered off sick for 3 months, whether I will be permitted to come in and join in the meetings. I want to ask a question because I don't want to get penalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu. Richard, do you want to I think Tracy has responded about the wellbeing protocol, and there are, I think long-term absence is something, not long-term, but, absence that's planned is manageable, isn't it? Richard, do you want to comment briefly?
Thanks, Krishni, and thanks, Anu, for your question. Yes, it's a good opportunity just to highlight to all governors, actually, and we do have a wellbeing protocol. So if you are either currently or expecting to have a period of being unwell or unable to participate in governor activities, do reach out to us, because there are some things that we can do. Certainly, we wouldn't want to be penalising anybody that's unwell, or in your case, Anu, undergoing a major operation. So yes, we would then essentially pause the requirement to attend meetings, and indeed we can also do things like pausing communications and those sorts of things. There are various different options that are written into the wellbeing protocol, drawn again from governor experience and our experience in the past. So yeah, just a bit of an advert, I guess, there really to all governors, that we have a wellbeing protocol, and do reach out to have a conversation with us about any personal circumstances. And yes, I would say, and if you are off sick for a period of time from work, then we would probably recommend that you're not participating in governor duties until you're well enough to do so. But it may be that we can have a specific conversation about your circumstances outside the meeting if you wanted to follow that up with us. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. So
thank you, Richard.
I think it is very much intended to be a pragmatic approach and a supportive approach, as Richard has outlined, and Brian has helpfully commented that they do seem reasonable. And clearly the whole, whilst I think this is about making sure that the, as Richard touched on, the council, because it is a formal meeting, does need to be quorate, and we need to manage attendance equally. We want to be supportive and compassionate as we are as an organisation. So it's just about getting that balance right, really. So I think the key, to be honest, is mainly communication, isn't it? If actually people are able to just communicate circumstances or adjustments needed, it's usually the flexibility is there to accommodate these things. It's the bigger problem is when we don't really know what to expect. So unless there are any comments or questions, bearing in mind members of the standards group as are predominantly governors, so I would hope these recommendations, I'm sure, reflect the views of the governors who were involved in those conversations. If colleagues think this is a reasonable approach, are we happy just to adopt those? And no doubt if it's causing a problem at any point down the road, the standards group would be happy to review those in due course. But can I take that as approved? Yes, super. Thank you very much. I can see a few thumbs up and nods, so I'll take that as a yes. And we look forward to that being effective in supporting both governors and the council as a whole in transacting as business as needed. So thank you very much to the work of the standards group in coming up with those proposals. We move on to the assurance section of the agenda now, which gives an opportunity for a brief comment from myself, but also importantly to over to Angela as our Chief Executive to talk a bit about what's on the top of her agenda. And just a reminder that the Chair and Chief Executive reports, which are written reports that go to our board, were circulated as links before the meeting. We don't need you to read those reports, but they're available really again for transparency, and Angela will certainly want to talk through the current issues that she's dealing with. I really only wanted to take the opportunity to say, first of all, thank you for a fantastic annual public and members meeting. Thank you to everybody who contributed to putting that together. Very much enjoyed it, particularly as it is my last annual public and members meeting, and indeed this is my last Council of Governors meeting. And colleagues who are newer to the council don't know whether everyone would have been aware of that, but I have actually served, or will have served, 9 years, which by the end of this month, which by NHS standards is the maximum that the Code of Conduct allows me to do, or the Code of Governance allows me to do. So it is really by dint of having served the very maximum I could have done, really as a result of your support, because the council has been the decision maker in extending my term to the full 9 years, which I'm thank you for, because it's been an absolute privilege to be the chair of the Council of Governors and indeed the board of directors for NHFT. It's been a fantastic journey, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've still got a few more weeks, but as I say, my time will come to an end. So I wanted to thank colleagues who are present here today for the support they've given, and particularly for allowing me to stay for so long, because that's really the council's job that you've undertaken, and that's allowed me to be the chair for this length of time. So I wanted to say that. I also wanted to say, actually, importantly, Faisal Hussain, who will be stepping into the chair role as a result of the support from the Council of Governors sometime, I think probably back in July, I think it was. Faisal has been shadowing me for a lot of the activities that I've been undertaking over the last few months. And although he was unable to attend today's meeting, he's promised to watch it back. And I know that Richard and the team will be supporting him with the Council of Governors and, of course, the board activity that he'll be undertaking as the chair in the future. And I would also say that Julia, who is our deputy chair, who obviously chaired the Council of Governors in August in my absence, will very much be continuing to support Faisal and as a very capable deputy chair, and so I think it is important to highlight that there will be a lot of continuity and stability on the board of directors as a result of this. And you'll hear a bit more about some of the proposals and plans on that in the private meeting as well. So I wanted to say all of that really because it's probably the last opportunity I have to do that. So that's all I wanted to say. And I will hand over to Angela for her to present her perspective as Chief Executive. So thank you, Angela.
Thanks, Krishni, and hi everybody. Just as Krishni said, some things that are on my mind, important I think to share, and I think Richard's touched on a lot of changes happening in the NHS. Our strategic context, there's a lot happening, so those things are very much in my mind and the executive team overall, but one in particular in terms of the new oversight framework that has been launched, you will have seen, I'm sure, which has led to NHS league tables, which gives us segmentation scores as organisations, but also ranking. Really important to say that in Q1, NHFT has landed a 1, which is the best it can be in that position, which is encouraging and a really good start. And the reason I mention that is not least because it's a new framework, which we're needing to understand and it will develop going forward, but also because it's a collective effort that lands those types of outcomes, because there's a range of metrics from access to people to finance to quality, and that's really important. So a good start, but we expect lots of further development in that. And I've stayed very close to a lot of the 10-year plan developments that are happening across NHSE as well, because again, there is a lot of change, and Richard's already mentioned the ICB clusters, and we've got new people in new roles across those clusters. That's also firmly in mind. So quite a lot around that strategic context, that sense of change and trying to understand its impact on ourselves as an organisation, but also what it means for us. In addition to that, I think importantly, we remain very focused on delivering our current plans, and that's both in safety, quality and finance terms. And those, as you can imagine, are always important to navigate together and balance, and that remains the case. And we have a real collective focus on value in that sense, but important to say that with 6.5% efficiencies and a significant cost improvement expectation, it is a challenging period, and of course making sure we balance that is very important. Myself and Dave and colleagues are very, very focused on that. We're also heading very much into winter, and there's been a lot of work to assure ourselves around those winter plans, not least within the organisation, but also with partners. And Anne's not with us today, but she's done a lot of work internally and externally to make sure that we are in the best position we can be to head into that winter period, and to ensure that colleagues and system partners understand that position and we work together, because again, our experiences of winter is that you have to stay agile in the space and you have to understand that as you go and proceed forward. But that's something very much in my mind. We're moving into a planning phase that's again very critical for us as an organisation, and Dave will lead on this, but it's a very important part of the new landscape because the ICBs move into strategic commissioning responsibilities, and we know as a cluster they will seek to look at that across the two systems, and we have a planning opportunity to understand that for us. It's quite a short time scale. We need to understand our planning in the next few months with submissions before Christmas. So that's really tight because we need to understand our financial allocations, our activity, our workforce plans. So Dave and the team are very much on that and really working hard to understand that for us as we get more information. And then importantly to mention that we've also, as I'm sure governors are aware, undertaken the acquisition of further prison healthcare services, and we've clearly welcomed HMP Loudon Grange into our fold, into our NHFT family, and I'm pleased to say that this week we've also welcomed HMP Ramby. So it's a really important step because we've taken the choice to go into and support these secured services because we feel we can make a difference. We were also asked to do so through NHS England, which is a credit to our current secured services. But we understand there's a lot of work to do, but we really want to make sure that those that are joining us feel welcomed and part of our NHFT family. So that's been important. And then finally, just as Krishni has said, I want to say thank you for governors for allowing Krishni to have stayed on as long as she has as chair. That's really important for the organisation. I really understand that because I've obviously been in the organisation for a long time too. And equally, that role with the chief executive is a very important one. So I would say thank you formally to governors for that, but also thank you to Krishni for her contribution. As I've said at our public board, it's been incredibly important to have somebody with values-based leadership and be prepared to work in a system, challenge constructively, but also be an advocate for our services. And that's what Krishni's done in abundance, and she's clearly supported me as well. So once again, Krishni, thank you very much, and thank you for governors for supporting that. It's been a really important part of our journey, I think, and significantly contributed to our achievements. So thank you. Thanks, Krishni.
Thank you, Angela. And thank you for your kind words. I do just want to give governors the opportunity, because we've obviously got quite a few, not just Angela, but quite a few of our executive directors here. So if there is something that you'd like to just either pick out from Angela's chief executive's report, or if there's anything that Angela's highlighted that you'd just like to take the opportunity to explore a little bit further, please do come in. So Heba.
Thank you. We're going to miss you a lot, Krishni. Thank you, Angela, for your speech. And I think we actually were so grateful to take extra like prisons or secure service plus what we have. But my suggestion, actually, we need to become more visible or more like visiting the prison we have, the old one and the new one more often. I know early this year we start having like a surface visit, then it stopped. I think we need to increase a little bit more, because now the demand actually become real. And I work, of course, in one of the secure services at the moment, and I can see the visibility from the board or from the trust is very important for the staff and for the safety as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Heba. Angela, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, no, really important. I think we've certainly increased the visibility and certainly increased the connectivity. And I think Dion and the team in terms of comms have also considered how we can ensure that connectivity is made more visible. And I know Linda particularly, I think Linda's with us today as well, has also been very instrumental in getting out and about across the prisons. And Anne, I know Anne's not here, but she's also going to be visiting all the Lincolnshire ones this month. So yes, I mean, I think we're committed to doing that. I think there's a lot of services to visit all the time. I think we've got a very strong programme, and Dave certainly coordinates all the service visits to make sure that we're getting themes and visibility. But yes, constant challenge, Heba, and I don't disagree. But the commitment is there, and I think Anthony, as our director, has certainly commented recently about how they've felt that increased connectivity and visibility as well. So that's encouraging, and I think more to come. But Linda may want to come in as well, because I know she's been instrumental in that.
Linda, please do come in.
Yeah, thank you for that, and apologies for joining late. I had a meeting with the family. Thank you so much, Heba. I just wanted to provide some assurance on our connectivity and support into our prisons. So our prisons are out of county, and what we've done as a senior team, that includes myself, Chief Operating Officer, the Medical Director, and other colleagues that we have who are here, some are not here, is we've structured ourselves so that we can reach all the areas. So yesterday I was in HMP Loudon Grange. Next week I'm in HMP Peterborough. My colleague, Dr. Champion, he was in HMP Peterborough. Dr. Watson, I know she was in another area. Anne has done the same. Anthony Blades, the service director, he's gone up to Rugby. So we are all going to different areas. And the richness in that is we all get a different sense. We bring something different to it. So I'm a chief nurse. I'll look at particularly from the lens of quality safety. When Anthony goes in, he'll look at the operational detail, our relationship with His Majesty's prison staff, and all other issues that come out from that. When the chief operating officer goes in, she's looking at those areas that then connect with the rest of the organization. So we bring different threads to this. We also spend a lot of time talking to staff like yourself, because that's really important. And actually the feedback we receive from staff is really invaluable. So where we need to make improvements, we will do that. So just to assure you that as we're taking on more, we've actually included that within a program of work, not just visiting prisons, but even in our other areas like Berrywood Hospital, like St. Mary's. So we are doing that as a group, as a collective, as leaders, clinicians, and operational colleagues.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'm going to bring other colleagues in, but I did notice Anu's hand went up earlier, Anu, and it's gone down again, I think. But did you want to come in?
Yes, please. It's just a quick question from Angela, because I work for the IT area, so we are getting all the prisons, and it's really, really great for the organization to become bigger and having all the services. But I have to ask a question, because of the freeze of not recruiting a lot of staff because of the tight budget and things like that, it is a bit of a pressure for our services. So I just want to highlight that being a person, I'm a governor, but at the same time, I'm working in the IT services, and we are just like going like what do you call, going round and round. It's so stressful as well, I have to say, because we are getting so many, even the prisons are sending us lots of stuff to do. So I just want to ask whether there are any thoughts about getting recruitment.
Yeah, so just helpful, Anu. I mean, I think what's important to say is not a vacancy freeze. What we do have is workforce panels that look at the vacancies that are coming through. We have to do that because, as you say, we've got to deliver value, but we've also got to be clear and confident that we are ensuring that we don't recruit if it's not necessary to. That said, obviously your detail, you're describing that differently, and I think important that we'll take back to Paul. I don't think Paul's with us today, and just to get a sense of that's how it's feeling, because again, services will feel things differently, but the panels are there to support services where need exists, and as I say, the freeze is not the language we would use. It's more about actually understanding vacancies and recognising where we can take steps or not. But we'll take it back, Anu, and certainly feedback is helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anu. Right, so Brian, please.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you, Angela. I'm just minded in terms of a conversation that we had at the Health and Wellbeing Board with Toby Sanders, who's the new Chief Executive at the cluster ICB, and he discussed some of the financial asks that are being asked around the ICB, and quoted sort of a reduction of about 30 odd %. And I was just minded in terms of the efficiency asks that are being asked of this trust, and that collated a question in my head about how is the trust connected in with the the reduction work that's going to be done, so that we don't sort of work in isolation, so that we sort of pull the same two things apart. So it's really about getting some assurance about how do we work together with the new ICB to achieve the efficiencies from both sets of organisations. So I didn't know whether you had any thoughts about that. I know it's very early.
Yeah, no, it's a really helpful question, Brian. I think that Toby may also be referring to the 50% reduction that was expected of ICBs in their workforce, and that was across the country. It affects different ICBs differently depending on where they stood relative to that, and that was something that was expected of all, and clearly that's an important part of their workforce reductions, particularly at the executive level, and that's now moved because he's introduced a shared leadership team. Beyond that is the planning cycle that we're going into now, Brian, in terms of actually the ICB's allocations that they will get, our planning to support that. They will give us the strategic commissioning intentions that they believe are important for the populations that they serve. And we will need to understand that in relation to what we can deliver. And that's the work that Dave will be leading in terms of that exercise. Clearly, it's important to work together, and just to give assurance here, I mean, I meet with Toby very regularly, myself, Toby, Richard Mitchell, who also runs UHL and UHN as a group, meet pretty regularly. We come across each other most weeks. We have opportunity to connect. I'm also part of the ICB board, so that gives us a sense of connectivity. That said, I think the challenges are still going to be significant because demand is increasing, population demographics are changing, and it means we've got to innovate and we've got to look at value and productivity. And that means our data and intelligence needs to also inform some of those conversations, and we've got to challenge ourselves. But we work very closely, but we've got the next few months to go through the planning period and to understand it for ourselves more.
Hope that's helpful, Brian. Thank you. Chris, please.
Oh, thank you, Krishni. Angela, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned in your report about the rollout of the neighbourhood health services, and that's going to change a great deal about how the whole health service conducts business, if you like. And our interest as Age UK Northamptonshire, we're very much involved, obviously, in direct services, not least Age Well and community responders and a range of other programs. But I wondered what effect or what the implications and priorities are immediately, if you like, for NHFT with all of this going on.
Yes, and it is one of the biggest and most dominant conversations around neighbourhood health that's happening in the NHS changes, because as you're saying, Chris, there is a lot of focus around actually how can we move from hospital to community, and this is really clearly what it's all about. As you say in the report, I've mentioned the West Leicestershire position. David Williams, I think, who's with us as well, was the person who led that submission, and it's really good that we've got that across the cluster because it gives us learning and opportunity to share into our patch, which we will seek to do. I think for us, though, it's very important to recognise that we already work in neighbourhoods. So we have a lot of work that's already happening. And, you know, a lot of our staff would say, well, I'm already working in an integrated way. I'm working, you know, with local services, whether you're a district nurse, whether you're supporting somebody at end of life care, whether you're working in mental health. There's a lot of neighbourhood working going on. So I think we're in a good place to support the cluster in developing plans further. But I think what's missing is connecting all of those things and doing it more at scale. So be much more deliberate about the integrated neighbourhood teams that could exist, that connectivity with primary care. So again, for those that may not know, we've also very closely worked with our federations, our GP federations, and we have some joint ventures with them, which gives us an opportunity to think about how primary care is responding to some of this as well. So a number of things, Chris, and of course also the ageing well stuff. We're just talking about winter earlier today, actually, and the ageing well opportunities that will be taken in this winter through that localised neighbourhood working are also there. So I think there's a strategic piece around the pilot and the sort of national connectivity and bringing that back to our county and our neighbourhoods. It's building on what we've got already, but it's also then preparing to challenge ourselves about how we can integrate further, and being clear and confident that we've got a lot of experience of collaboration, and our thrust on co-production is also significant too. So I think that's where we want to make sure that we are supporting the ICB, but also taking quite a lot of leadership role in convening people to take this forward. I'm really encouraged about the neighbourhood health work, and I know exec colleagues are. I think this is the opportunity. It's the only opportunity I've seen to really shift the money in the way that we need it to. So I'm very encouraged, but there's a lot to do.
Thank you, Angela. And no doubt the voluntary sector and, as you said, primary care and local authorities will be a key part of that local working, won't they? So thank you. Okay, I think I'll bring Linda in as in. Linda, did you want to come back in, or was that an old hand? Just double checking.
No, it wasn't an old hand. It's just a reply to the comments around staff reduction and or not recruiting to some of the posts. So just to add on to what Angela said around it's not a freeze. What we do have that goes on within our areas, so the care delivery pathways and the corporate areas, is that we do have staff who've worked with us a long time in NHFT who are retiring and wanting to return. So we do need to then avail vacant roles to those staff, and our people team keep a register of that. So whilst another team wants to progress a recruitment where we've got our staff who are still wanting to come back and work with us, we do want to afford them that opportunity. So that's one of the things that we will do. We also have to work with our services as the needs of the population change, where we need to develop new roles. And the only way we can do that is to skill mix some of our vacancy factors. So again, that will come down to the teams. So apologies, that gets worked out as pathways change due to the needs of the populations. But we do need to be able to skill mix to create those new roles. Additionally, we do have changes in the ways of working in some of our teams. So people will work different. Some of the things that we did previously as we introduce certain systems, we may not need someone doing that. It doesn't mean to say a person loses their job. It just means to say that they're then going to work in a different team doing something different. So those are some of the things that are going on, which then means when we talk about not increasing our head count, we are not. But actually we do have vacancies and those are being used up in the ways that I've described. So it's just to reassure you that we are committed to supporting our staff, to retaining the talent that we have. We value our people, but it will be different ways of working, and that will result in changes in who sits in which team doing what at that particular time. So we are working through that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. Yeah, there's sort of responding to digital and different ways of working and using different skill sets, I think, is a really important part of the future. There is just a comment which I wonder whether we can make a brief response to, specifically about whether the workforce panel takes into account staff applying for Mars. Dion, I wonder if you can respond to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Mars as a structured programme has its own overview process, but of course these things are taken in context, and our workforce efficiency panel also follows similar approaches. So again, in line with what Linda was saying, we bring together the key people across the organisation to ensure we're making safe decisions around staffing, and do that through the Mars, but also through the workforce panel process as well. So all of these things are very much aligned.
Thank you very much, Dion. Thanks, everybody. Good conversation about sort of some of the opportunities and challenges that I think we're all dealing with at the moment. So really helpful to explore that. And now we have an opportunity to explore something very specifically around access to some of our services, which was an area that you wanted to hear a bit more about, and we're always keen to respond to questions that governors may raise where additional assurance might be helpful. So today we have Julia Curtis, obviously Deputy Chair and Non-Executive Director, supporting this item. I think it was originally going to be Joe, but Joe was unfortunately unable to attend today in the end. So Duncan Orme, one of our newer NEDs, not new because Duncan started earlier this year, but Duncan's happily stepped in, well, offered to step in. Don't know whether you were happy about it, Duncan, I'm sure you were. But over to you, Julia, to lead this one off.
Thanks very much, Krishni. And there's a number of other other non-execs and execs around on the meeting today as well. So at the end, when there's questions and comments, there's a wealth of experience and people to take questions, etc. So I'm just going to start us and then Duncan's going to lead us into the first few slides. I just wanted to say that since I've been here as a non-exec for the last 4 years, we've actually covered this on a number of occasions in the Council of Governors formally, because it's a really, really important area. And we have a number of new governors recently. So forgive us, we have included some slides around the national and NHFT context around access, the framework really for access to services. So apologies if some people know some of that, but we felt it was right to just reframe it again for the conversation today. A couple of things before I hand over to Duncan. One is a reminder that not all of our services actually hold a waiting list. So services, quite large services such as community nursing and our intermediate care team, for example, don't hold waiting lists. So we will talk you through the process we get assurance for those that do, but just a reminder, this isn't every service in the organisation. And my last thing that I wanted just to say is that every time we talk about information around waiting lists, we do take the opportunity to remind ourselves that every single number is either an adult, a child, connected to families, children at school, and waiting for assessments and treatment can have a huge impact on a very large amount of people. So it's something we take really seriously. We bring it back to people, and you'd be forgiven for thinking we always talk about numbers and percentages in our performance reports, etc. But actually, I assure you that we do remind ourselves constantly this is about people. So Duncan's going to take you through the first few slides about context and how we get our assurance on performance. And then I'll talk us through our Waiting Well initiatives at the end. So I'm going to hand over to Duncan, if that's okay.
Thanks, Julia, and hopefully you can all hear me clearly. We're going to try and canter through these slides, hopefully which you had a chance to look at before the meeting, to go through some of the context of waiting times. And so let me start off with just reminding you that access to our services is one of the key principles, one of the 7 key principles that guides the NHS. And that's laid out in the NHS Constitution. If we could go to the next slide, please. That right to access described in the NHS Constitution is framed within what's described as a maximum waiting time that you can expect to have. And the one we hear about so much is this 18-week target of referral to treat for non-urgent conditions. Actually, the majority of our waiting times aren't in those kind of 18-week targets. They are within those which are described elsewhere within the NHS framework. So for the services that are not consultant-led, they're not subject to that 18 weeks. Maternity services and public health services. So if we look at the next slide, principally 2 of our services are subject to the 18 weeks target. Those are consultant community paediatrics and consultant-led outpatients. In other areas, maximum waiting times are guided by the contracts we sign with our commissioners, our own internal waiting times policies. And those two areas, including on top of the 18-week target, are reliant for monitoring on data that we collect. And one of the first things we examine in the board and in the tier 1 committees is the robustness of that data, that we're looking at. It is telling us the true picture that's going on there. The way we do that, amongst other things, is in workshops and presentations that we have. And we've recently had one of those, Julia, where we had a good look with the subject matter experts at how we can assure ourselves of the robustness and the quality of the data that's there. It's also subject to our internal auditors looking at it. What that tells us is of services under pressure, and we also see that in our ward visits and department visits. Now, as Krishni kindly said, I'm relatively new to the team here, and so I've started more recently my journey on these visits with Anne Rackham and Sheila Bagley, who we heard about earlier on. We had a good visit to Wheatley Ward. We've also been to Children's OT with Paul, and the hand service with David. So in these visits, what we see over and over again is not just the impact on our service users and our patients, but also on our staff. And what we see in our numbers is clearly reflected in the services that we're seeing on the ground. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is a look at how some of this statistics and those narratives come up to our committees and indeed to the board. And that's through our integrated report. You'll see this in the public board papers, and you can see at the top right-hand corner there a graph that has in recent months been showing considerable pressure on the number of people waiting. This data, if you look at it as we do in the committees, takes us to, in particular, certain areas, 7 particular areas. And we could go to the next slide. These include ADHD, MSK, musculoskeletal services, and the children's services. Our exec colleagues have been describing to us how that how that pressure is being monitored and how we as an organisation are responding to it. And in particular, the work of the waiting list management group, which takes a look, as you heard Angela and others describe earlier on, at the work of increasing our productivity through uses of technology, through uses of delegation and training of our staff to make sure that we're getting the maximum effort for our service users and patients from our staff without overbearing on them and putting intolerable pressures on them. And again, we see that on our service visits as well. The extent of work that individuals are going to identify those service users and patients who most acutely need our help. Paul and I were on this visit to Children's OT, and we were hearing really clearly how one service user, one family, can consume an enormous amount of time and effort and care from the team there. And so this look at productivity on its own needs to be balanced up with this look at the impact it's having on families and the work that's required to give the support that's needed. So where does that take us to? There are these 7 areas and a couple of others which the slide describes, which lead us to keep a closer eye in the boardroom on specific areas. We're going to hear in a second from Julia as to how we've been managing those people who are waiting as an organisation. But before I leave, that is management of those who are waiting. Angela was describing that we are, as an organisation and as a health system, in the middle of our planning for next year. And one of the things we need to keep an eye out for as we move forward looking at these statistics and these numbers and the messages and stories of the individual patients and staff that lie underneath these numbers is how we as a system as a whole are doing exactly as Angela was describing, responding to and addressing these numbers of patients and service users who are waiting. So I've talked enough about the background of it. I wonder, Julia, if you could take over and give us a bit of an insight as to how we can help patients on those lists wait well.
Thanks, Duncan. So as Duncan has just described, the Performance Committee look in great detail, every committee, that's the bi-monthly, through the integrated organisational report at a raft of information around quality and safety issues, financial details and performance, and that all distills down into one of our biggest concerns is around our waiting lists. So Performance Committee look at the performance. Quality and Safety Committee, as Duncan's just said, are really concerned with how well people are while they're waiting. So we just want to prevent people deteriorating their condition, etc., while they're waiting for assessment or treatment. So there's a raft of initiatives that our different services have taken, depending on the type of service, and a few of them are listed here. So one of the most important is clinical review of those who are waiting. It used to be called harm reviews, they're clinical reviews now. And that will depend, the frequency will depend on the service, whether it's weekly or monthly, but every single service with people waiting will be reviewing those people on those lists routinely and regularly. And that's done by a variety of different ways. Some services have link nurses who contact patients and provide support and escalation. We have carer support, peer support workers helping with service navigation and signposting. And as you'll see there, we've been developing numerous resource packs to provide information and alternative points of contact. Another really important method is we have volunteers who check in with families, young people, just to maintain connection and just see how things are going. So as you can see, there's a raft of initiatives. One of the recent ones is the Wellbeing in the Woods initiative that we heard about recently at Quality and Safety Committee, which is a pilot initiative with partners in our system to help secondary school pupils who are waiting for a neurodevelopmental assessment to actually wait well and be out in nature. And it's an evidence-based programme, which is fantastic. It's not just come for a walk, it's evidence-based and it's just amazing initiative. And hopefully when that pilot's concluded, we'll see how that evaluates and whether that can be supported going forwards. So that's the assurance we see and hear around our Waiting Well initiatives. And Richard, if you could just put the last slide up. Thank you. Just a couple of examples for you that we put the slides out yesterday just so that you could have a chance to read this. A bit busy, but the 2 stories we just wanted to tell you about. One was around autism and ADHD assessments, huge waiting list for these. And as a system, we recognised that we needed to put in some additional capacity from the private sector to be able to undertake some of the initial assessments. And there's an explanation on the slide about the offer that we've managed to secure. And then at the bottom of that, on the left-hand side of the slide, we talk about the community paediatric service review across our system. And the reason we wanted to bring that out is children and adults waiting for assessments around autism and ADHD. It's not just NHFT as a provider of services that this affects. This is a whole system issue, and unless we get together and really look at a different way of providing this service, a different model, we're just going to carry on having huge waiting lists. No matter how much we adapt and how much we innovate, the numbers are so significant that it needs a total system approach, and that's exactly what's happening, led by some of our directors and others in the system. So hopefully will lead to a new model of care, and our waiting times will be reduced. And then the second one on the other side of the slide, our memory clinic. If any of you saw the board recording or were able to watch our public board last week, our memory clinic were our patient story, our service story. And they've taken a completely innovative approach to cutting down their waiting times for a memory clinic assessment. Innovative, it's called a one-stop shop. Basically, it means assessment and diagnosis on the same day, and it also takes in the scan that patients require. It's taken a lot of effort to actually get this off the ground. We heard about it a couple of years ago as a patient story, as a continuous quality improvement project, and then we heard about it last week, and the last paragraph tells all, I think. So by the end of 2023, they'd exceeded all expectations, with waiting lists falling to over 80% lower than the previous year, and the wait time reducing from 8 months to less than 8 weeks for really vulnerable group of patients. So 2 great examples where we've been able to hopefully affect our waiting times. What we haven't done in this assurance section is try to go through all our waiting lists and give you a massive information about every single waiting list. We do that through our integrated organisational report in our committees. That comes to the public board in full, and we have the opportunity to comment. So there may well be some comments that people want to ask, and we've got, as I say, others on the call that may be able to answer wherever the conversation takes us. But we didn't plan to bring a detailed operational overview of our waiting lists. It's how we gain assurance on your behalf that our operational services led by our leadership team are actually monitoring and, more importantly, having an effect on our waiting lists. So I think Krishna probably open that up back to you. There are a number of people. Judith's here as performance chair. Dave Mayer routinely presents our integrated organisational report with far more in-depth knowledge than us. So I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Julia. I can see Carol wants to come in with a question. I just wanted to mention that the Wellbeing in the Woods initiative, Dr. Acharya, is actually a Dragon's Den innovation as well. We might have mentioned that before, but it was one of the ones that, you know, where we invite our staff and our services to put forward ideas that they would like support to take forward. Because I remember, and whilst Julie was talking, I did go and search out I watched the video. It was very exciting to see the presentation that the team did, and these are just some of the examples of innovations that staff are encouraged to put forward. So we can perhaps share that as well, because governors might really like to watch that, because it's Dr. Acharya herself actually describing why this initiative felt really important, the Wellbeing in the Woods one, and I just felt it was important to highlight that it was a Dragon's Den initiative that had been put forward by staff. So Carol, I think you'd like to come in.
Yes, I would actually. Thank you very much. Just going back to the memory assessment model, just from a personal experience, I can really assure governors that that works. It worked for my family. It worked for several friends of ours, and I think it really worked. And what was important was the consultant being there to make the decision at that time. And I just wondered whether it could be used as a model for other services. Just thinking about it, whether it could be used for other services, because quite often it's the difference between the assessment and then the consultant looking at all the reports and actually making the diagnosis. And obviously in memory that's worked. Could it be used as a model for other services? Thank you.
Carol, thank you very much. And I seem to recall that was the sort of conversation we had as part of the board, actually, because no, and you were absolutely right to highlight it, because it was such a great example of people really thinking about, Carol, what patients were saying. And what their experiences were of the process. So it might be useful just to bring in, I don't know whether one of the execs would like to comment on that, but I think there's been a lot of work done, hasn't there, on that memory assessment service, because we first heard about it maybe a year ago, possibly, Julia, and then we had it again in the last board, didn't we? So a huge amount of activity that's been done to drive things forward there. So Dave, are you happy to come in and just comment on whether the sort of ability to replicate the kind of continuous improvement type approach that team have taken forward, I think?
Sure, Krishni, and thanks, Carol. Agree, and the memory assessment service it's a diagnostic service predominantly. That does slightly change what we're able to do, because we are able then to bring specialists together to look at scans and reports, etc., and then agree on a pathway. So for sure, definite learning about that consolidation of experts focusing on a diagnostic task. Slightly different to try and emulate all of that in a treatment pathway, but we do as much of that as possible, as you'd expect, as part of the Waiting Well initiatives. But great to hear the feedback, Carol. I'm really pleased that there's some lived experience in the room as well in relation to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Any other comments or questions about any part of that presentation or any aspect of sort of waiting lists that people would like to explore? Okay, don't want to prolong it unless you particularly have anything that you want to explore. I think it's really important to say that this is a regular focus, as Julia's highlighted. It's very much a sort of topic that's reported on regularly through the integrated organisational report that Duncan referred to, which Dave presents pretty much at every meeting, so we get a clear view on and changes to our waiting list. But importantly, as I think Duncan rightly highlighted and Julia highlighted at the beginning, it's recognising that the numbers are not numbers, they're people behind those numbers, and that's why things like the patient stories and the service stories and the transformation stories increasingly we're hearing about at our board are really, really important, because that really illustrates for us the work that services are taking forward to try and improve, with the challenges of resources, because, we've touched on that already. That is a reality that we're dealing with, but it is important to say that there is ongoing work, and some of that, of course, is very much involves the voluntary sector as well, as we've touched on earlier in the discussions, really. Okay, well, if there's nothing else that people want to talk about as far as that topic is concerned, I think that actually brings our formal part of our public Council of Governors to an end a little bit earlier than we planned. We spent a bit longer on a few of the other topics, but obviously we were missing a topic. So I'm able to bring the meeting to a close, but we would obviously like to invite governors and particular colleagues who are presenting in the private Council of Governors meeting to come back and join us. And I suggest we start that at 4:40, if that's okay. So 4:40 with a short break. It's really important that we get a number of governors back into that meeting in private, because we do have some important decisions and recommendations for council to consider in private. So I'd be very grateful if you could be back with us at 4:40. But otherwise, can I say again how grateful I am to the support of the Council of Governors, again as in public, and thank you to everyone for their contributions, and I'll see you shortly in the private meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
Bye
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye everybody.
Bye.